then you burst into fire. Forever.
Hello.
Hello.
You're listening to The Full Blossom of the Evening, a podcast about David Lynch and Twin Peaks.
I'm Indigo.
And I'm Hilary.
Listeners, we're going to tell it to you, and we're going to tell it to you straight. Today we're talking about
Horne's department store.
It was Laura, and I saw her glowing. I saw her smiling. I feel like I'm gonna dream tonight.
So, to give you some more context into why we are talking about Horne's department store, the story of how this episode has come to be starts with our first visit from our friend Colin from Creamed Corn in the Universe. The first time that Colin visited us here in Pittsburgh, we wanted to try to take him to pretty much anything that could be remotely connected back to Twin Peaks. Like, if you're going to come all the way here, we're going to give you the grand tour, even though it's not a big tour.
It's a short tour.
It's a short tour, and it was mostly contained to downtown.
Right.
But still. So, yeah, Pittsburgh has kind of a peripheral relevance to Twin Peaks. We have Cooper's traumatic past with Wyndham and Caroline Earle happened here, which we hear from both Gordon Cole and Bob in the original series. For Colin's visit, we plan to take him to our local David Lynch-themed restaurant, Hemlock House, which is also just a fantastic restaurant. If you are ever in Pittsburgh, you should go.
Absolutely.
And also because they have a bunch of David Lynch stuff. But
and the Night Blooming Jasmine cocktail.
Yes, which is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like a Black Lodge Manhattan, and the food is excellent. And everyone that works there that I've ever interacted with has been so nice. But, so we took him there, of course, but we also figured out where the FBI Pittsburgh field office was housed in the 1980s, and we took Colin to see that building as well.
Like this is where Cooper would have been working, right here in this building.
Very exciting. Yeah, we're like looking up at the windows and be like, maybe that was his office.
Well, and then based on something I'd randomly read on the internet once, but I could never find it again, we took him to the Horne's department store building in downtown Pittsburgh. What I thought I'd read was that Mark Frost chose to include Horne's department store in Twin Peaks because of his time here at Carnegie Mellon University. Again, could never find the written evidence, but figured it was a fun thing to include on our visit.
And then we took some photos, and almost a year later, Colin posted them on Blue Sky about Mark Frost's perhaps intentional illusion. And then Mark Frost quoted Colin's post in his own, stating, "correct bonus points," and we freaked the heck out. We screamed and cried and threw up.
And what do we do with bonus points awarded by Mark Frost?
We make a whole episode about it.
Yes. So, listeners, we're spending our bonus points here, and we're making this episode about Horne's department store. Also, we might be the only Twin Peaks podcast out of Pittsburgh.
As far as we know.
So, we are eminently qualified based on that to talk about Horne's as it is a Pittsburgh institution.
Yeah.
Or as it was a Pittsburgh institution.
Right. I mean, because I was too young. I missed it. I just missed it. But you've been there, and you have memories attached to the place, which is so cool.
Big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're qualified.
Yeah. And while I've been talking to friends and loved ones about this episode being one of our upcoming topics, I've also had the experience of people being like, oh my gosh, yeah, like my grandma used to love that store, or like, I have all these memories of going there and stuff. And it's just so special to see this impact that it had on our city.
Right.
And it was honestly a really fantastic one.
It was.
Which
All the way
seems
back its whole
crazy.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this episode is going to be a little bit different from our others. It's kind of a love letter to the store and to its founder. I mean, far from the smarmy corruption of Ben and Jerry Horne in Twin Peaks, Joseph Horne and the other founding members of the company were men remembered for being genuinely good citizens and employers. So part of this episode is just going to be us sharing some of our favorite details about the history of Horne's, including some that made it a good fit for the world of Twin Peaks.
Yeah. And so for most of these historical details, we've been relying on one book in particular by Letitia Stewart Savage titled Horne's, The Best Place to Shop After All. There's so much more in this book than we have time to share here. It goes incredibly in depth and taught us so much about this place. So we do encourage you to read it if you want the full history of Horne's department store. It's honestly just fascinating. Like, I don't think either of us thought we would fall down this rabbit hole of department store history
As
so
usual.
much. But like, I was like, oh yeah, okay, so I guess we'll do this episode and then it'll be fine. But like, then when we actually started reading it, and like when you and I had our first meeting to kind of discuss what sort of things we wanted to go over, we ended up getting really animated about it.
Yeah. And it's going to lead beautifully into our next episode, which we'll talk about at the end here. So
It's going to lay some really good groundwork.
Well, also, Horne's department store was the setting and filming location for the 1987 thriller Lady Beware. It was directed by Karen Arthur and stars Diane Lane.
I'd never seen her that young in anything, I don't think. And she,
same.
oh my God, gorgeous. Like, unbelievably stunning.
So we both watched the film, obviously. And although we don't have any direct evidence that Mark Frost was thinking about Lady Beware when he chose Horne's for Twin Peaks, there are some really interesting parallels between that film and the original series. So we're excited to talk about what we noticed.
Yeah, and that movie really is, I'd never heard of it before, and it's fascinating for many reasons. It's fascinating that Horne's was like, yeah, film this here.
Yes.
Given kind of their values and everything. But also, it is just like, when I first watched it, I was like, that was all right. And then I kept animatedly talking about it to like everyone I know. And at one point, some of my friends were like, Indigo, it sounds like you actually really liked the movie. It sounds like it actually had quite an impact on you because you won't shut up about it. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think I did really like that movie.
I did really like it too. I watched it because it was mentioned in this book about Horne's. And so I thought, oh, I bet I can find that for free online somewhere. And did. And I remember texting you the link to it and saying, I enjoyed this a lot more than I expected to.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like, by the time I finished, I was like, well, that was pretty okay. And then the more I sat with it, especially, then I was like, that was really rather good. That was actually pretty impressive.
So hopefully we're enticing you to stay to the end of the episode when we discuss Lady Beware.
We're also going to talk a bit in this episode about the history and cultural importance of department stores more generally. For that, we're indebted to the book Land of Desire, Merchants' Power and the Rise of a New American Culture by William Leach. Unexpectedly, we get to ask again in this episode, who is the dreamer? Which
Indigo has an answer to in this case.
when we had our planning meeting and we were talking about this, we were like, you know, it's like really like this, it's consumerism and capitalism is almost like an abusive relationship that like soured, but like it started with a lot of love bombing, and like now you've seen its true colors and the ways that it wants to hurt you and like take away everything you hold dear.
And I said, you know, who is the dreamer?
Like,
and,
who would
and-
dream such a thing?
And Indigo answered,
Someone bad?
yes.
Like,
So-
it has to be someone bad that would dream up a dream like this for us, where everything has an Amazon tag on it and
Or is made of plastic.
Or is made of plastic and it still costs $1 million.
Right. And the department stores, including Joseph Horne, they were part of the love bombing phase.
Yeah, that was
Definitely.
back when everything was shiny and pretty, and they said that they loved you and that they would love you forever and be sweet to you forever, and they would give you, doll tea parties and lunch. They'd take you out to lunch. And now it's all bad. It really is like an abusive relationship, but it's shopping. It's stores. It's stores and the people that make stores.
It's so early in the episode for us to be losing it. But
I know.
I love it.
It's the capitalism brain rot.
I think so. Especially coming off of the holiday season.
Oh, good
Right?
God. Yeah. I will say, I feel like I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but I work in retail at a small business. And the holidays really fry your brain. But while we're talking about, capitalism and businesses and stuff, I do think it's important to mention, as someone who works for one, that like small businesses really are the way that you can keep your community thriving.
Oh, yeah.
Like I forget what the statistic is, but I saw a post going around the holidays that was like, hey, just a reminder, this is like the statistic of like for every like whatever amount of money you spend at a small business, this is the percent that goes directly back into your community. Because it's so true. It's just like, and the ways that small businesses look out for each other is so beautiful.
And that's what we have left. I think these large department stores in their original form, they were local businesses.
Yeah.
And a lot of the profits perhaps seem to go right back into the community.
Yeah, I mean, Horne's, like, I was actually just saying to you earlier that I thought it was so meaningful that during the Great Depression, Horne's donated money to the Pittsburgh Welfare Emergency Fund. And they were just constantly funneling money back into the community and taking care of their employees, which is like what made us so charmed by it.
Right.
Was just seeing the care and kindness and generosity that they shared with their employees, which is why people speak so highly of it.
Yeah. And although they're not small businesses,
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
local businesses.
Yes, and they left
yeah.
a great legacy.
They sure did.
Yeah.
Well, I think finally this episode is going to be a discussion that's going to be really steeped in some nostalgia. If you've already gotten a hint about this from our little outburst here.
Yeah.
Nostalgia is an emotion heavily associated with Twin Peaks and with David Lynch's work generally. When Mark Frost alluded to Horne's in 1990, the real-life Horne's department store still existed. And just 5 years later, under the control of Federated Department Stores, Horne's was closed for good, and its beautiful building came to house offices for the insurance company Highmark. So, while Twin Peaks was indulging some nostalgia for the 1950s, Mark Frost was also inadvertently memorializing, in some small way, a different chapter of American life that was right on the verge of becoming its own deep mine of nostalgia. And that's this century-old era of the grand American department store.
Yeah, department store means something different now. But they originated as these architecturally grand, luxurious, like palaces of consumption that appeared in almost every American city by the beginning of the early 20th century. They had like these soaring ceilings, marble floors, fountains, live music, fantastical immersive environments on each floor. All of that was a standard. Like it was like sometimes the best restaurants in town, like the fanciest restaurants were in these places. Some of the department stores offered even more, like Wanamaker's in Philadelphia features the world's largest playable pipe organ. Marshall Fields in Chicago installed a 6,000 square foot mosaic ceiling designed by Louis Comfort Tiffany. And importantly, all of this opulence and luxury was for everyone, not just the wealthy. Department stores appeared after the Industrial Revolution filled up warehouses with more goods than Americans wanted to buy. The intention was to create retail environments that would encourage shoppers to dream. And that to dream. And that dreaming, it was believed, would create a desire to buy. I mean, even while we were getting set up to record, we were talking about this, and I was saying that the more I learned about Hornes, the more I realized that their whole thing was if you could dream it, they had it.
They had it for you.
If it was something you dreamed about learning how to do, or a service you could imagine and dream of being possible, they had it.
Yeah. It's like they were anticipating people's dreams and wants and then just delivering them to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what you said about being for everyone is really important. While those kinds of services are currently still available to the very wealthy, this was literally for anyone who walked in the door.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they had things that they made extremely accessible, and that is something kind of unheard of anymore.
Oh, for sure. Well, the author William Leach argues that this era was where our modern consumerism-based American culture began, and that department stores were at the forefront of this massive and enduring cultural change. So this idea of like encouraging the dream, and then that dream would lead to this desire to buy. So I think it's kind of interesting how Ben Horne, as our department store person in Twin Peaks, is associated with dreaming kind of directly.
Yeah.
You know, he has that line that he creepily says to Audrey, of course, like, this is such stuff as dreams are made of.
Yeah.
And he's also kind of a purveyor of fantasy in a much darker way at One-Eyed Jacks, where he's selling some sort of dream.
He's selling a very specific, uncomfortable kind of dream. But it is something that there are people who desire that.
Sure. And Ben Horne is coming at the end of the 20th century. And it's a much more corrupted and debased version.
Yes.
You know, like what
Again,
you talked
it's
about, the
that
toxic
abusive relationship.
abusive relationship, right. Our original Joseph Horne was not running a brothel.
No, he was very delicately taking care of his employees and trying to give them a better life.
Well, speaking again of department stores generally, outside of a few major cities, these stores don't exist anymore in the United States, but they used to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh had two grand department stores, Kaufman's and Horne's. And I grew up in the city, and my family used downtown to run errands. And so once a week on Saturday, my mom, my grandmother, and my sister and I would go downtown. And it was just a ritual. And so we would start at Horne's and we'd shop there. We would make our way up Fifth Avenue to Kaufman's, and then we'd go down Smithfield Street, maybe to Gimbel's, maybe to Randall's Toy Store, which is there. But it was just how you did errands. So like my grandmother would buy, you know, stockings and face cream or all those kind of mundane things you need. And then we would just kind of wander through the stores. A lot of Pittsburghers have memories of the department stores from the holidays because they would go like once a year to like look at the windows or see shopping, Santa.
Yeah.
And so the holidays were a big part for me too, but it was just part of my like weekly routine.
Right.
And so I don't think I realized how much I missed it until I started reading this book and thinking about it, especially because we were preparing this over the holidays.
Right.
And I started getting kind of angry. I'm not a very nostalgic person in general. I kind of think that like a lot of things, maybe current events excluded, are in some ways better now, but not shopping.
Yeah. No, it's a much worse experience these days.
And my family was lower middle class. I mean, we lived in like little row houses in Lawrenceville, but we were totally welcome in these spaces. We never felt like we didn't belong.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to buy very much. I don't really have any I have very few memories of actually buying things in the department stores.
Yeah.
I just remember being in them. And I also know that I was never bored,
Yes. Yeah.
which is weird for a little kid in a store. But that's because they weren't just stores. They were really kind of immersive, fantastical environments in a way.
Definitely.
They were really comfortable. They encouraged leisurely kind of wandering. There were lots of lounge areas, tea rooms and restaurants, bookstores, toy stores, pet departments, all in these beautiful buildings where you like checked your coat when you walked in.
Yeah.
And then you were just free to enjoy the day.
Yeah. It's almost like an amusement park in a way.
Yeah, but it was not that intense.
Right.
You know, it was like,
Leisurely amusement
I
park.
feel like my family used them the way they had been intended to be used like 100 years ago. But it was almost like a kind of third space before we used that terminology.
Yeah. Just like a place to go and be.
Without the pressure to constantly be spending money.
Yeah.
Although it was a store.
Right.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed this, but the contrast with the modern shopping experience and modern working experience is really stark. So I think that the book by Letitia Savage really fed this nostalgia.
Definitely.
But the book by William Leach, the other one we're talking about, really helped to counterbalance that. And then I thought more like a nuanced way about how department stores kind of created our new American culture. Nostalgia really fits for Ben Horne, though, too, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Because he's maybe the most directly nostalgic character
Yeah.
in Twin Peaks.
I could see that.
Like, he has his little Louise Dombrowski
Yeah.
memory, the home movies, even in The
Right.
Return when he's talking about the bicycle
Yeah.
that his father gave him.
So we'll start off with some general historical context. Pittsburgh, though sometimes now thought of as a Rust Belt city with all of the negative implications of that term, was once one of the wealthiest cities in the world. Its golden age was roughly 1870 to 1930. By 1900, Pittsburgh's East End, which is actually where we are currently recording, had more millionaires than any other neighborhood on Earth. As new money industrialists, they were also hardworking, thrifty, and sometimes philanthropic. Henry Clay Frick, George Westinghouse, Andrew Carnegie, Henry J. Hines were kind of the main players.
Oh,
that
there
we
are
saw.
so many other names,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
but
yeah, the Mellons. Like, there's a
The
bunch.
Shanleys.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it's like if you are from Pittsburgh or if you've been to Pittsburgh and you like notice the same name on a lot of things, like a lot of streets or parks or things, like that was probably a rich guy.
Well, I mean, despite their flaws, because these men had issues, homestead strike,
Yeah.
among other things, these industrialists bestowed legacies on the city that we still enjoy today. So Pittsburgh's architecture, parks, libraries, museums, and so forth are all here because of their generosity, their gifts to the city. One universally known example of this legacy is the Frank Lloyd Wright masterpiece Falling Water. It's not in Pittsburgh, it's about 60 miles away.
But I feel like a lot of Pittsburgh people consider it as a part of Pittsburgh. I feel like growing up, it was just like, oh, yeah, that's us. That's us.
Sure. Well, and it does have a very direct Pittsburgh connection because it was built as the private home of another Pittsburgh department store tycoon. That was Edgar Kaufman Sr. His son later donated Falling Water to the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, and it's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Yeah, I think like the important thing when we're talking about sort of balancing these things is that, like there's no ethical billionaire. There's no ethical,
Right.
rich man out there, I don't think. But it reminds me of a conversation I had with my dad when I was a kid, because I think I was talking about like something like Mellon Park maybe, or like one of the museums or something, and it was a Carnegie something I was talking about, and he was like, I think we were in the car and I was in the back seat, and he turned around and he was like, Indigo, do you know anything about that person or anything? And I was like, no, I'm like 6 years old, I think. And he was like, the thing you need to know is that the reason why they donated all those things was because it was near the end and they were afraid they were going to go to hell. And I think that's one of the only things my dad's ever said that I've agreed with. Is like, yeah, I think it was like towards the end, they were realizing that they had done a lot of harm and treated their employees really poorly. And they were like, well, I got to backtrack somehow.
So the answer is libraries.
Yeah.
Libraries, for Pittsburgh.
Museums, parks, just throwing money all over the place. And like, admittedly, I am really grateful that we have all of these beautiful places.
Yes, because and here's the thing about rich guys being afraid of going to hell. If that was the case, what all of their concerns left were, many generations worth of enjoyment and beauty and that sort of thing. I mean, all of our beautiful parks here were donated by these families.
Frick Park, Mellon Park, like all of these, places that have become these community hubs and places of joy and rest are admittedly thanks to them.
Yes. And even Phipps Conservatory, which is our big botanical gardens, Phipps created that as a place for his employees to go on Sundays because he thought that they were wasting too much time drinking. So he wanted to create a beautiful place for them to go with their families instead of just getting drunk.
I wish that would work on my boss. I wish that if I was like, hey, Blair, I can't stop drinking. I'm drinking every day.
How about you build a botanic garden for me?
I don't think she would / could, but I think she would appreciate the moxie of me asking for that. I think she'd be like, I wish I could.
So we have these like vanity projects or hell avoidance projects of these millionaires. They're long gone, but this legacy is still here.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh for us to enjoy. So yeah, it's complicated, right?
It's complicated. I think that's the perfect word for it. It's very complicated. It's a very layered sort of situation we find ourselves in.
Well, our great department stores were part of this legacy too. The Kaufman's building sold in 2015, but the physical building is still there in downtown Pittsburgh. And the Horne's building closed in 1995, and as we said before, it's now a home of an insurance company. But they still put up the Horne's department store Christmas tree, which is on the corner of the Horne's, one of the corners of the Horne's building, and it's like 100 feet tall. We'll have to post a photo.
Yeah.
And it still marks the beginning of the holiday season here in Pittsburgh. So like lighting that tree means the holiday season has begun. And it's still where like our New Year's Eve celebration downtown is centered. So it's interesting how that tree, which was given to the city by Horne's, right? They're the ones who created it and put it up. They're long gone. Yeah. But again, that legacy remains here.
Well, and it reminds me of, you were telling me you visited Wanamaker's and that they still try to make this effort for their Christmas stuff as well, even though the store is now closed.
Yeah, well, it was because of the William Leach book that I read years ago that I first made a trip to Wanamaker's. But then I heard that this year Macy's has pulled out of that building, so it's now vacant. And the city of Philadelphia was really concerned, apparently, that that would mean the end of two major holiday traditions in Philadelphia, which is the Wanamaker Light Show and the Dickens Village. So I guess they got enough funding together to do these like this year. And so I was like, we have to go see it. Yeah. And so did get to see the light show, but the Dickens Village was long sold out because that was a ticketed event.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So not gone, just sold out.
No, it's still there. And they may be bringing it back in a couple of years, but we'll see what happens. But honestly, Indigo, like I walked into Wanamaker's atrium where the giant pipe organ is and this huge Christmas tree and I got choked up.
Yeah.
Like-
I mean, well, while you were telling me about it at first, I was like Google imaging it and just like looking at pictures, and I was like, whoa.
It was so spectacular. And to think that this is just done for free.
Yeah.
Essentially, by these merchants, these department stores did these beautiful displays. Yeah, of course, they wanted to get people into the store.
Right.
But nobody was putting on a spreadsheet like, oh, well, we put this much into the show. How much do we get out of it in increased sales?
Right.
It's just like, yay, it's Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was like one of my favorite things that we had found in the Horne's book, was that Horne's used to do these doll tea parties.
Right.
And they would send these little girls home with like, you know, whatever, you know, teacup and saucer and stuff that they had from their tea party. They got to take it home.
Yeah.
And it was just like this really lovely, you know, ongoing event that they had.
Annual tradition.
Just for the community. It was
Yeah.
just something nice for people to do. And like, I can't imagine any of these like big stores like Amazon or Target or something doing
my
anything like
goodness.
that. Could you imagine? You can't.
Never.
Like they would never just put on something like that just for the sake of making people happy in the
mean,
community.
The American Girl store has a cafe.
Yes.
But you're paying a pretty penny.
Right. Well, and also I will say I did go there.
Yes, I have too.
Yeah. And
As a
like,
mom.
And
Yeah.
the food is just fine.
It's super mid.
It's so expensive.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit now about the history of Horne's department store very specifically. Joseph Horne moved to Pittsburgh from his family farm in Bedford County just as Pittsburgh was recovering from the Great Fire of 1845. This was a fire that destroyed about a third of the city. So Joseph Horne worked as a clerk in 2 stores, became a partner in one, and then by age of 23 in 1849, bought out his partner and created Joseph Horne and Company.
So Joseph Horne and Company began as a trimmings and fancy goods store, as opposed to dry goods. It quickly developed a reputation for selling the finest merchandise of its kind in the city, a reputation that it went on to retain for over 130 years.
Well, that's very true, because even when I was a kid shopping at Horne's had the reputation for being the best store in the city. Well, there were actually 2 other partners who joined Joseph Horne. So in 1860, C.B. Shea became a partner, and then Albert Birchfield in 1865. And it was descendants of these 3 families, the Birchfields, the Shays, and the Hornes, who managed the company for most of its existence. It reminds me a little bit of how in Twin Peaks, Audrey wants to learn the family business, and she's going to start in the department store. Now, she has ulterior motives.
Yeah.
But it's very much in line with how this particular store was run, too.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like from the book that in some cases it was a lot of people in their families, within these families, that would work in the store and kind of work their way up as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, they didn't just immediately get management positions.
Yeah, it was like, they weren't like spoiled per se. It was like, they had to start and work and see what the inner workings of the business were like first, and really prove that they could be part of this like empire, essentially. No just like rich heirs with stuff handed to them.
No Nepo baby managers.
No Nepo baby managers.
Horne's was also known for fair pricing. So in Philadelphia, John Wanamaker popularized this fixed one-price system with the invention of the price tag. And that was first brought to Pittsburgh by Joseph Horne. So before this, clerks assessed a shopper's wealth, and then they skillfully bargained with a customer to get the highest price they could for the store. Merchants like John Wanamaker and Joseph Horne believed that this was unfair, and so they both instituted separately a fixed one price system.
And I have to agree with them that it is quite unfair that used to be the way. Like, I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine, like, walking into a store and somebody just kind of looks you up and down and is like, I bet that person could pay about this much money.
Well, it's like the way we bought cars,
Yeah.
right, for a long time. And isn't this kind of coming back with dynamic pricing? Have you heard of this?
No, I don't know what that is.
Where they're going to start, some stores are already experimenting with this, like putting electronic tags on shelves and basically tracking you as you walk through the store and adjusting the prices
Ew.
for you. So, sorry to horrify
That's so
you.
scary and horrifying.
Speaking of that abusive relationship.
Oh my God.
Sorry to depress you. Well, back to Horne's. Its first store was a small 3-story building in the commercial district on Market Street, with retail on the ground floor and wholesale upstairs. But Horne's expanded into the neighboring building by 1862. And in 1867, the Pittsburgh Commercial Gazette described the store as being, quote, modest and unpretending on the outside, but inside it was filled with the richest assortment of goods ever exhibited in this city.
I mean, Horne's was perfectly poised to serve a city on the brink of becoming one of the world's wealthiest.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's population doubled after the Civil War, and Horne's kept growing along with it. The retail business moved to a much larger space on Penn Avenue in 1871, and Horne's expanded into dry goods, offering the most luxurious imported fabrics, hats, and gloves then available in Pittsburgh. This also is when Horne's started offering imported French perfume.
The perfume counter. Yeah. Well, by 1890, Horne's had outgrown its retail space again, and the company began construction of a palatial department store at the corner of Stanwyck Street and Penn Avenue. Now, Joseph Horne died in 1892 before this building was complete. An article about him just after his death in a Pittsburgh newspaper really described, I think, the kind of man Joseph Horne was. It said, "There are few businessmen in Pittsburgh whose names are known so well in the home as that of Joseph Horne. Hardly a lady goes out for an afternoon's shopping without a visit to Horne's being on her program, and most Pittsburgh women knew the courteous, white-haired gentleman who, until the commencement of his fatal illness, could always be found during business hours in his retail stores. The respect and esteem that have always been entertained in this community for Joseph Horne are the cause of general regret at his exit from the stage of business and philanthropic life. He left behind him the businessman's greatest treasure, the monument of an honored name."
Which, like, a lot of those rich men, that's not the kind of,
Legacy
or that
obituary.
they leave. Yeah, or obituary that they leave behind. It's usually, no one has a nice thing to say about them, really. But, like, he genuinely, from what the book told us, people really admired him. He had a lot of great morals in the way that he approached his life, and really cared about his employees, and just really wanted everyone to be well.
Yeah. Well, the big department store opened in 1893, featuring all of the latest technology, like electric lighting, a pneumatic tube system for transporting cash to the central cashier. The entire building was then destroyed by a fire in 1893, but Horne's reopened in a nearby building just 2 weeks later. And as soon as the ruins were cold, they rebuilt the department store building even larger. When this new building was damaged by yet another fire in 1900, Horne's took the opportunity to upgrade the exterior design of the building and reopened 1 month later. This was more or less the final incarnation of the building exterior. So the one that's still there in downtown, that was after that 1900 fire. So that's what we've still got here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, the interior of the store was so incredible. The Pittsburgh Press wrote about the fall opening in October 1910 and wrote, "In a maze of marvelous millinery, gorgeous gowns, magnificent furs, and with flowers and potted plants and rippling fountains everywhere, the autumn fashion opening of the Joseph Horne Company began this morning to continue 3 days. At every entrance on the first floor of the immense department store, and placed with an eye to the artistic effect throughout every part of the store, are great pyramids of plants, autumn leaves, and fresh flowers. Each department is given over to the newest, the freshest, and the best materials and articles pertaining to its own particular division. On the second floor has been arranged a stage decorated with palms and flowers and a pretty little electric fountain. Here pose the models brought to Pittsburgh from New York in order that Pittsburgh women may have every advantage of viewing the new gowns.
It's so splendid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the
it sounds
ceiling,
like a movie, you know?
on the ground floor, the ceiling was 23 feet high.
Insane.
Just soared above you, and it had all this like beautiful like millwork and, you know, architectural interest and marble floors, and so gorgeous.
I mean, again, the pictures in this book are just so fantastic.
Well, in addition to fires, the store weathered multiple floods too.
So many floods.
So many disasters. In March of 1907, the Allegheny River flooded downtown Pittsburgh and water rose 5 feet around the store. The best part about this, though, is how the employees reacted, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think they would do this if they didn't love the store. The employees literally built a barricade around the store and used pumps to keep water out of the building so that Horne's was the only store in the area that didn't have wet merchandise. Yeah. And these other stores were like just offering the wet merchandise at a discount, and Horne's didn't have to worry. They literally were able to protect everything because the employees jumped in and were like, we're not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
Not at our store that we love.
Well, during the St. Patrick's Day flood in 1936, the rivers rose 21 feet above flood level. 65% of the buildings in downtown Pittsburgh were underwater, and 100,000 buildings were destroyed. Yeah. Now, Horne's is located really close to the Allegheny River, so it wasn't as lucky as it was in 1907, and the first floor of the building sustained catastrophic damage. Insurance didn't cover it. They didn't cover the damage to the store or the loss of merchandise.
Yeah, well, I know in the book, I thought it was really interesting. It said that their insurance said they would only cover 40 feet of water, and it was 46.
Yeah.
It like the floodwater was almost at the top of the store marquee. So they were like, sorry, if you had paid for that extra 6 feet, we'd cover it. So then when they got new insurance, they got it for 48.
Take that, insurance companies.
Screw you.
But you know, again, thanks to the prudent management of the store's finances, Horne's recovered without incurring any debt.
Yeah.
They rebuilt the store with advanced flood protection and, as you said, better
for
insurance.
48.
And
48
for the
feet.
first time, they put in air conditioning. I love that after that, they advertised it as cool horns because they had air conditioning. And, you know, it was this same prudent financial management that allowed Horne's to not only survive the Great Depression, but then they actually prospered during that time, too.
And I think that was also the one where after that, when they did reopen, they had signs everywhere too, where they were saying, honestly, the most important thing is that we didn't lose any of our employees.
Oh, sure.
That all of our employees lived through this.
Because plenty of people died in
like,
that flood.
They were like, we don't care that we lost all that merchandise because at least our employees lived through this, which is like, oh my gosh.
Sure. And nowadays we could be cynical and say they're paying lip service or whatever.
Yeah.
But
they
Horne's
meant it because they
Yeah.
took care of their employees like crazy.
They paid all of their employees full wages for every day they couldn't work in the flood's aftermath.
Also that.
Yeah. I mean, by all accounts, Horne's was a wonderful place to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, during World War I, Horne's employees who served were kept on the payroll and their families received their paychecks. So then when they returned from the war, their jobs were also just still waiting for them.
Just was so wonderful. It was the first store in the city to pay bonuses to selling and non-selling staff. It was the first to allow staff to work reduced hours when sick, and the first to advance salaries based on an employee's sales record.
Yeah. And one of the first things that you see in the book that we talked about that was so great was that they had shortened weekend hours in the summer so that their staff could have like Saturdays off a little earlier so they could enjoy the summertime. Like little things like that really do mean a lot.
Oh my goodness, it's so true. And even when you were in the store, the employee cafeteria, it sold the same meals as the restaurants in the department store at or near cost, though.
Yeah.
So employees, they weren't profiting off of their employees.
Right.
And I know that by 1949, they were serving 3,000 meals a day in that employee cafeteria.
Which is crazy.
The store employed 4,000 people year-round and 5,500 during peak seasons.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about, a handful of at-cost meals.
Right. And they also had a restroom, like not like a toilet, but like a restroom that had a Victrola, a piano, a dance floor so that employees could dance at lunch or at special evening events.
Can you imagine being able to dance, being
Never.
encouraged to dance during your lunch break?
I literally can't. And like they had smoking rooms and a rooftop exercise area and employee showers. There was an on-staff nurse, a treatment room, hospital beds. So like if you weren't feeling well, like don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like it was they really cared that everyone was well and everyone was taken care of.
And Indigo, before we started recording, you mentioned that a lot of this still exists in tech companies now in America.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that work at Duolingo, and like when they talk about like all of the like nice amenities and stuff that they have at work, there's that. But you made the really good point, because I was like, well, I mean, I guess there's still companies that do that, or like also I've heard about that at like Google too.
Sure.
But you made the good point of, well, here's the thing though, is that those are jobs that like are incredibly hard to get, and you usually have to have like a fancy degree and all these amazing credentials and everything to get those jobs. And these were jobs that you didn't have to have a degree for.
Oh my
These
gosh,
were jobs,
no education at all.
Yeah. Like when you brought that up, I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, like, because I'm like, yeah, well, Duolingo has a cafeteria and a gym and a cafe and a blah, blah, blah and stuff. And you were like, yeah, but those people had to spend so much money on fancy degrees. And I was like, oh, right.
Yeah, they didn't just walk off the street as little kids before child labor laws.
No.
Or like Horne's employed like formerly enslaved people.
Yeah.
And those people often stayed with Horne's for 40, 50 years.
Right.
So... yeah. And also, I think a lot of the tech companies now, not speaking of Duolingo, but certainly like what I've read about places like Facebook, they may offer a lot of amenities on campus, but the idea is that you're going to be there most of your time.
Right.
Those amenities are there to help make up for the fact that you don't really have a life.
Yeah. And that they don't
outside
want
of
you to go
work.
home.
Right. So the department stores offering these kind of amenities to their employees, people were still just working a normal workday there.
Yeah. No, yeah, they were like, here's your workday, and also you get your weekends off early over the summer so that you can enjoy it and maybe go to Camp Horne, which we've made for you.
Oh, let's talk about
as
Camp
a
Horne
retreat.
then.
We've made you a little retreat.
I mean, I have known about Camp Horne Road for as long as I've lived in Pittsburgh, but I had no idea that there was actually a place called Camp Horne.
Yeah, I didn't know either. So, I mean, the big thing is that in its earlier days, like when it was first opened, it was operating as a retreat for the junior help. But then when labor laws changed and you couldn't have child labor anymore, Like, I mean, by 1919, they had already just decided to convert the camp to a camp that any employee could go to whenever they wanted to spend time. It used to be that employees could, you know, come and hang out and stuff, but it was really mostly a camp for the young child employees.
Yeah, it's so neat. It started in the late 19th century when a group of women employees came to the manager, H. Birchfield, worried about these kids, right?
Yeah.
Because they were just like little children starting to work as early as age 12 and making a couple dollars a week. And I love that other employees were just concerned about these kids kind of missing out on childhood.
Right. And it was a place where they were fed and taken
Yes.
care of. Like
They weren't even allowed to make their beds.
No, yeah, they were told to just have a good time. Like, they were encouraged to eat as much as they liked. I loved that there was this little note that one little girl gained 6 pounds during a week at Camp Horne, and a boy gained 10 pounds. Like, they were like, we're gonna just like make sure these kids have fun, and we're gonna fatten them up and make sure that they have the best time ever.
Well, and most of the employees at Horne's lived in the city. And the city was smoky and dark.
Right.
And Camp Horne gave them like kind of a country retreat.
Right.
And so they got fresh air, they got to camp, they got to...
And they had buses too to get them
they
there.
transported them there.
Yeah, they had a whole transportation system set up because not everybody had access to cars, or also like, you know, it is just easier if you can just like hop on the bus at work and just head right over.
Well, and eventually Camp Horne started having a bus that would take you to work. So you could live at Camp Horne all summer if you wanted to for a song. Like the price was so low.
It was like, what, $1.25 per night. $1.29. Yeah, it was $1.25 per night, $2.75 for a weekend, and $8.50 for a week. Incredible. Incredible. And like, this was like meals were included.
Oh yeah,
also.
3 meals a day.
Yeah, 3 meals a day.
Plus all this recreation, you know, that you could take out little boats.
Yeah.
You could swim. There were all kinds of sports and activities. Just beautiful.
Just a wonderful place to be.
And Horne's department store wasn't making any money on this.
No,
This
it was just
really-
all just filtering back in. Like, whatever money they were making was just getting put right back into the camp.
So it was just an investment in their employees' well-being and happiness.
Yeah.
I also love knowing that sometimes like the employee would bring his or her whole family to
Right.
the camp for the
Yeah.
summer. So the employee would continue going back and forth to work, but maybe their children were just playing at the camp all summer.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing, is you could bring guests. You could bring your friends. You could bring your family. And they just like wanted their employees to have these full lives.
Yeah. And the managers loved it too.
Yeah.
A.H. Birchfield loved the camp so much he lived there all summer.
Yeah.
You know, and hung out with the employees and interacted with them at Camp Horne.
Yeah, when he passed, people were devastated. They loved him so much because he just loved to be at the camp and loved to like dress up and be silly for the kids and stuff. And so the Horne's employees had their own sort of newsletter called the Horne Pipe, and in an article after his death, a camper remembered, quote, "One of his chief pleasures was to gather a crowd of the little children at camp on his porch to entertain them. So many of us remember him as he presided over the old mess hall, led the grand marches at the dances, and did everything he knew how to foster the spirit of good fellowship and comradeship among all employees. And that's the picture of his we'll cherish in our memories."
Oh my goodness.
Like, he was so like, imagine like a like a rich owner of like a department store, and this is what people think about you. They're like, this is like the nicest man we've ever known.
And so this camp was for everyone who worked for the store, all the way from upper management, the president of the store, down to the youngest employees.
So also you have to think about the fact that like they would all be spending time together too. It wasn't
They're
like
socializing.
it wasn't like the rich people were too good to hang out with their
Right.
employees. They were like, actually, no, we're all going to go to camp and we're going to sing songs together and have a fun time. We're all going to go swimming together and eat meals together.
And have the big dance.
Yeah. Pig
Nos-
sigh.
We're feeling nostalgic for a time we didn't live through.
Yeah, a time that we didn't live through and I fear we'll never get back to.
I can't see it coming back.
I don't know how it would be possible.
No.
And that's heartbreaking.
Because it wasn't that long ago.
No. And I mean, so the thing was that like Camp Horne started to kind of wrap up in the 1930s. The financial challenges of the Depression made it a little trickier.
Sure.
And so the dining hall closed in 1937 and things started to just kind of shutter up from there a little bit.
Well, and also the suburbanization of America. So
Yeah.
a lot of Horne's employees started moving out of the city. And, you know, they were having their own little semi-rural vistas then in their suburban yards. They didn't need that communal backyard, really, that Camp Horne kind of served as.
Yeah. And so it was about by the 1950s that Camp Horne was only open on the weekends. And then in 1962, they leased the camp to Avonworth Municipal Authority for use as a public park.
Yeah, and it's still there now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing was that once the lease expired, Municipal Authority offered to just buy the camp. And now it is Accord Park.
You know, well, all of this wonderful treatment of the employees, I think, really goes back to even before the building of this grand department store when Joseph Horne was still alive. There's a story from even before 1892. A girl who wasn't even old enough to wear her hair up, right?
Which is like, what?
Remembered that Joseph Horne was worried that she looked frail. He had a chair put in her department so that she could sit down. She stayed at the store for the rest of her life. That little gesture of seeing an employee, being concerned about her well-being, making this small accommodation for her.
Yeah.
He got a loyal employee for life because of that kindness. And again, this is the president of the store. This is the owner of the store. This is the man whose name is on it.
Yeah.
And he sees her.
Right.
You know?
I mean, I feel like this book was so full of stories like that where it's just like if they got any quotes or, you know, stories from employees that interacted with him, they were just like, he was so kind. He cared about us. He was so thoughtful and so generous with us. He was just this kind old man. And it's just like, it's so wonderful. I mean, honestly, you know what? He does seem like he could be a Twin Peaks character, but
a good one.
But like a good one. Like this is like if like Cooper or like Gordon Cole opened a department store, maybe, you know,
Yeah.
and they just like wanted to make sure that everyone was all right, and they check in on everyone. I mean, that's the thing. Like again, we've talked about this so many times that Twin Peaks, there are also a lot of really fantastic characters who show so much kindness and gentleness, and I think that he really embodies that kind of energy.
I really like that.
I mean, it would be like if David opened a store. I mean, that's really what it would be like. Is like if David Lynch had a department store. I think that this is what it would be like, because you just always see these quotes about how kind he was on set and everything. And I think that this is how it would be. It would be like, you know, an actress that he would be like, oh, honey, you look frail. And, you know, pull out a chair and make sure they sit or something.
So kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Joseph Horne was very wealthy.
Yeah.
You know, he has his family has a massive burial plot in Allegheny Cemetery. Really, he also had a beautiful home here.
Yeah.
So it's not as if they were denying themselves luxury. They lived in beautiful houses. They traveled all over the world. And yet there was also enough money to spread that wealth to their employees.
I think that's the difference, right? Is that it's like if you look at like Jeff Bezos and stuff, it's like he has money coming out of his ears and is just throwing it every which way, but still hoarding it because he still has so much. Like it's like all of that money that you're never gonna get to spend before you die.
Yeah.
You're just hoarding it instead of making sure that your employees have safe working conditions,
Have enough time to go to the bathroom.
right?
Yeah.
Or any of the other horror stories you hear. And it's incredible to me that like we're at that point where it's like, because again, it's like, you know, like with like the Carnegies and the Fricks and stuff, it was like, yeah, you can't take it with you.
Yeah, I've heard them described, the modern kind of billionaires described as human dragons, just guarding their piles of gold.
Yeah, it makes me think about the quote from It's a Wonderful Life where it's all that you can take with you is that which you've given away. And like, yeah, like David loved It's a Wonderful Life. It is such a good motto. That's George Bailey's father's motto.
Yeah.
And it just sums it all up perfectly.
Right.
It's so, that's what it is. It's like, why are they like Elon Musk, all these rich men that are just like hoarding it like dragons, like you said? It's like, what do you think you're gonna do with that? You can't take it with you.
Also, the things they build, like
Yeah.
the things these rich people built
Yeah.
in this era of
At least they were
Pittsburgh.
like museums for the public and
Or
libraries.
Even their office buildings. So, like, my eye doctor is in an office building downtown at Benedum Trees building. And it's so spectacularly
they used
beautiful.
to make beautiful buildings, and now they look
Yeah.
like they're made of plastic.
Right.
Like our buildings just keep getting uglier and uglier because people don't care.
We're all in
anymore.
Tuttyville now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like in playtime.
yeah. Everything's just a cold box now.
Well, aside from how nice of a place Horne's was to work, it was a marvelous place to shop too. And part of that was because Horne's really understood their clientele. Like, even from their earliest days, they knew they were serving wealthy people, but they were wealthy industrialists.
Yeah.
And so it was the idea that even the richest had worked for what they had, and that the industrial elite came from this culture that valued frugality and a careful use of resources. There was a real emphasis on quality and good value in addition to luxury.
Right. And according to the Hornes, they would say this store is for everybody, regardless of pocketbook, who appreciates merchandise of the standard this store set for itself long years ago and had steadfastly maintained. While this store specializes in the finer grades of merchandise, much of it is moderately priced, well within the means of all today.
And that stayed true to Horne's throughout its existence. There were certainly like floors of the store or departments of the store that had really expensive, kind of the finest clothing. But, you know, I could also get school clothes there.
Well, and we were talking about how, like, they were able to weather the Depression partly because they pivoted. They made separate floors in the store for more affordable things, more accessible prices.
But still really good quality.
But still good
really
quality.
beautiful merchandise.
And they started offering a lot of services
Yeah.
that made it possible for people to hold on to things longer. They had this hosiery repair system that people would literally send in their pantyhose like from all over the country to be repaired because Horne's is like the only place that offered this. Like all over the country, people were like relying on Horne's because Horne's was like, well, okay, if you can't afford to constantly be buying new stuff, what if we help you maintain it? They offered that these services where if your furs weren't in the latest fashion, they would take them and rework them for you. Like they did all of these different like various repair services that they offered just so that people could make things last longer.
Right.
And then they
right.
didn't have to worry about constantly buying new ones.
Yeah. I mean, Horne's was still offering a huge range of services when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I used to get my hair cut at Horne's.
Yeah.
Like, that's where my salon was.
Yeah.
You know, I know their bridal salon was really, really famous, and my mom got her wedding dress at Horne's. And, you know, they had like a salon and barber shop, a manicurist. They had a travel agent who was really well known, and they stored luggage for people who were just visiting Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So if you were visiting and you didn't have a hotel, you could store your luggage at Horne's.
Right. Which was like also part of like the beauty of these things that they, like these services that they offered, was it was like basically they were almost offering to be like a third space, or like, you know, like a waiting room while you waited for, like, if you were just in town for like the day and you just needed to like stash your stuff somewhere, you know, get a shower, get your hair done, get a shoe shine, whatever and stuff, like they had you covered.
Yeah. Yeah. They did.
They had an optometrist.
Right. They offered interior decorating services. They had a telegraph office.
Yeah.
Back when that was a thing. They had a doll hospital.
That was my favorite. That was like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was like saying that like they were really popular like around the holidays and stuff, you know, because it was like, again, that's another thing where it's like, then you don't have to buy a new doll every year for your kid.
Yeah.
You can just be like, hey, here's this doll you love. We're going to get her spruced up. We're gonna get her all set up for the new year. And you know, maybe we can get her like a new outfit or something, but then you don't have to have the cost of buying a whole new doll.
So we live in such a disposable culture.
So
now,
disposable.
And this is the opposite of that.
Exact opposite.
This is a store that is encouraging you to reuse, to repair.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
almost encouraging you not to buy, which is what's so enticing about it. It's like they're like, yeah, you can just come hang out at the restaurant and and take your doll to the doll hospital.
Right.
And we'll get you all set.
One of my favorite details about the services that Horne's offered was that they started doing expert tailoring,
Love that.
particularly of bathing suits, because when women started wearing evening gowns with plunging backs, they realized that women wanted their tan lines to match up with their evening gowns. And so you could bring in your evening gown and the seamstress would match the back of your bathing suit to
Which
your
is
evening
just
gown.
incredible.
Adorable.
I loved it so much. I thought one of the ones that I thought was pretty silly, but like, I mean, it was cute. It was endearing, was that they started carrying golf products and like
Yes.
golf outfits. And then they were like, wait, do people even know how to play golf? So then they hired a golf instructor. So
Yeah.
you could come get your cute little golf outfits and then also meet with the golf instructor so you could learn how to play golf in your cute little outfit.
I know. I mean, they had cooking and sewing classes.
Right.
They had classes in all sorts of things. Plus, yeah, you could also learn to golf.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and like, especially like with like the cooking and the sewing, it made sense because it's like with, you know, like they had household appliances and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So they could show you, well, here's how you use this new product. And with like the sewing, they sold patterns, they
Yeah.
sold fabric. In the 1920s, they were the only place in Pittsburgh to carry official Vogue, like the Vogue sewing patterns. And they had a whole Vogue room. And it was because they'd built this relationship with Vogue magazine. Which I just thought that was so special. They were a first spot for a lot of things in Pittsburgh. Also, in the 1920s, Horne's was the only place to buy Elizabeth Arden's products, which was like the first to bring makeup out of its association with sex work. Before that, makeup was really only like worn or associated with sex workers. And so this was kind of like huge in the world of makeup. In 1925, Chanel perfumes were introduced to Pittsburgh through Horne's perfume counter.
There we go again.
There's that perfume counter. But yeah, it's just like they were a big first for a lot of things in Pittsburgh. They brought the world to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They brought Vogue from New York to us. They brought Paris to us.
Well, I know they had offices by the early 20th century in New York, Paris, London, Brussels, Florence, Germany, Czechoslovakia, and Switzerland.
Yep.
Like buyers from Horne's made annual trips from Pittsburgh to Europe before and after World War I. So it was just constant.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, speaking though of the perfume counter, reminded me of something else we learned reading was that before the big department stores, being a clerk in a shop was kind of a lowly profession. And the department stores really professionalized sales work in an interesting way. And they treated their sales staff with a lot of respect and kind of elevated this profession. And salespeople truly became experts.
Yeah.
They were able to make recommendations. They were able to kind of guide a customer through the shopping process. And I have to say that was true even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That you really felt like you were in good hands,
Right.
right? With sale. And they were very courteous and kind and professional. And they felt knowledgeable about what
Right.
they were selling. It truly wasn't just like, well, I need a job.
Right.
Which, no hate to that, because
Yeah.
I get it. But there was a sense that this was a career.
Yeah, I think it is definitely a lost art in some ways. I think it's something I really cherish about my job is like I'm really good at my job. And I'm like going to hold on to this little nugget forever. There was like an interaction I had maybe like a month ago or so where a guy asked me, it was like during the holidays. And so like a guy was like asking, you know, like, he like kind of ran up to the counter and he was like, where can I find this? And I was like, oh, okay, so you're going to want to go here and then here and and stuff. Cause I was like in a long enough line that I couldn't walk away from the counter. So I was like, but I'm very good at giving directions around the store. So I gave him directions to whatever he needed. And then he came back up and he was like, okay, I got that. Do you also know where I can get this in the store? And I was like, yes. So you're going to go here. And he was like, you're better than GPS. And I was
wonderful.
like, thank you.
Oh.
I was like, you know what? I know this store like the back of my hand.
I hope it's still true of booksellers, but you know, when I worked as a bookseller, I felt like that was an area where professionalism and kind of expertise was still really valued in retail. That
I think it is sometimes. I think nowadays it's like I don't get those interactions as often where people are looking for my help with it. But God, when they are, it's like the best day of my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I was born for this. I think that's another one where I've had one of my favorite interactions, which was that I had like posted on our social media recommending a book that I had read, and I was like in the book aisle and this woman was looking around and she looked a little like she, you know, needed help. And I was like, hi, did you need help finding something? And she was like, actually, yeah. And then she like turned and she looked at me and she was like, it's you. And I was like, huh? Because it was like a picture of me holding the book. And she was like, I saw your post and that book sounded exactly like what I want to be reading. So I was like, absolutely, it's right over here. And she was like, great. And actually, like, while I have you, do you have any other recommendations of books like this? And I was like levitating.
Yes.
I was levitating. Because it was like a gothic, like a dark gothic kind of romance type of thing. And I was it's like, well, okay, well, like, have you read Rebecca? And she was like, no, but I've always meant to. And I was like, let's get you Rebecca. And so, I was like, I assume you've already read the Brontes. And she was like, I've read the Brontes. And I was like, have you read Rebecca? And she was like, I haven't yet, but I wanted to. I was like, we're grabbing that for you. And like, you know, send her up to the counter with like, I think 3 or 4 books or something. And she was like, I can't wait to come back. And so I was like, great. And we, like a salesperson, we live for these interactions. And not just because I'm like, oh, I'm sending her up to the counter with 4 books. Because I'm not making commission on
right.
anything.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for the love of the game. I'm doing it because I love to send people home with good books.
Oh, that is beyond relatable.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just, I'm just happy that you're leaving with a good book in your hand.
And please come back and talk to me again about
Yeah, that's
what
the
you
other
thought.
thing is
Yeah.
like I've had interactions with customers also just like checking out where you know, I'm like, oh my God, I have to ask, are you getting this book for you or like for someone else? And if they're like, it's for me, I'm like, okay, like this is like, obviously not all the time, but it's like, if it's a book that I really love, then I get to be like, well, I really love this book and I'm so happy you're going home with it. And like, if you come back in and you see me, please let me know what you thought, because I'd love to chit chat about it.
And speaking of that, listeners, sometimes you reach out to us and say, "Oh, I'm going to read that book you recommended," and we say, "Let us know what you think about it."
And we mean that.
Now you know how much we really mean that.
It makes my day. It makes me so happy when people listen to my recommendations.
But to bring this back to Twin Peaks,
Absolutely.
I think what's really funny is, so we have these like this level of professionalism expected of department store workers, and then we have Audrey behind the perfume counter. And so I think, Indigo, that we both thought Audrey's behavior behind the perfume counter was like really funny, but now it's even funnier because now, after kind of learning more about what the expectation of service was, that customer who's like pestering Audrey, she's right to expect that kind of service.
Yeah.
And Audrey's like utter disregard, like, we'll put it around your neck or something like that, is hilarious. It's even more hilarious.
Yeah.
In the context that like that woman wasn't out of line. She wasn't just some old Karen being demanding. Like, that's the kind of interaction that would have been normal in a department store, and
Definitely.
Audrey is the completely hilarious out of line one.
Right. Yeah. But again, it's like, I mean, it's we do kind of expect it from Audrey. She's Audrey Horne and she gets what she wants.
And she couldn't be less interested in actually working at the department store.
No, she doesn't want to be there, actually.
She wants to be a secret agent.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about the services and demonstrations that they had in the store related to what they were selling. And so one thing that they were selling and demonstrating was in the toy department in Horne's.
Yes.
And so this was in 1920. The store was selling kits and parts for making wireless radio sets. They also set up a little wireless receiving station in the department as a demonstration and advertised it, quote, "for the accommodation of our patrons and any who are interested, particularly small boys or the young men who were in the radio service during the war and who haven't had an opportunity to, quote, listen in for some time." And so you could come in and like use the set. They said, without any obligation. In the afternoon, there is usually great activity in the air. So even if you weren't buying your own wireless radio set or parts, you could come in and kind of play around with the one on display in Horne's.
Yeah.
And then this led to something kind of monumental.
Yeah. Yeah. It basically ended up helping develop KDKA, which is the first commercial radio station.
Period.
And it was because Westinghouse reached out and was like, we like what you're doing. We like what you're up to. What if we combine our forces and make this a radio station?
Yeah. Well, the strange thing that happened was department employees were working late in the toy department, and they heard a 20-minute broadcast of Victrola music coming across this set they had on display. And so they were all kind of like chatting about it with the advertising department. And then the advertising department put out a headline, "Air Concert Picked Up by Radio Here," as a way to advertise the wireless sets.
Yeah.
And as you said, Westinghouse saw that ad and just blink, like a light bulb went off. And now we have commercial radio.
And like, it was so good for them too, because it was like they were able to do these broadcasts where they had like fashion and makeup and home furnishing programs where they could talk about, they had like specialists. They had people that like, this was their field, and they could tell you all about all the new makeup trends on the radio. But they also had really lovely, cute stuff too. Like during the holidays, KDKA would broadcast a program of Christmas carols that the Horne's chorus presented in the store.
Oh yeah, the employees had choruses.
Like, what workplace has a chorus? What workplace is like, you know what? What if we had like a glee club?
Yeah,
A new season of Glee, but it's set at Horne's department
And we're
store.
just going to sing in the store, and then we'll also be on the first commercial radio station.
Right.
It was inspired by a random fun thing that happened in our store.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know that Mark Frost had any particular reason for picking horns, right? It may have been random.
Yeah.
But it would be fun if it was in part because of this connection to the birth of kind of broadcast, and like electrical transmission of information. And there feels like a lot of kind of Twin Peaksy and Lynchian themes possibly related here.
I can see it. Yeah, I think it circles around the same vibe and the same energy, I think.
Well, we did uncover a couple of little darker things.
And more direct connections, I would even say.
Yeah, a little bit of a dark story related to horns that we thought was also quite relevant to Twin Peaks. And that's that Durbin Horne, who was the son of Joseph Horne, and Christian Shea were members of the South Fork Hunting and Fishing Club. Now, those of you not from Western Pennsylvania might not know what that is, but it was a secretive club of elite men whose reckless environmental actions led to the horrific Johnstown flood of 1889. This flood killed 2,208 people. It was the largest loss of civilian life in U.S. history at the time, constituted roughly 10% of the population of the area. Horne and Shea actually owned one of the 16 cottages that were part of this club. So there were a lot of men who were part of it who didn't actually own residences, and they did.
Yeah, I mean, you can't grow up remotely around here without hearing about this. Like it's something that's like ingrained in people's brains within a certain radius.
Yeah.
Because it was just so horrific. I mean, like the loss of life was insane.
And it's in such a horrible way because the flood, it wasn't just the water.
Yeah.
It was all the debris and barbed wire and stuff that the flood picked up on its journey. So people weren't just drowned. Yeah. They were completely maimed by this disaster.
I mean, it's so unbelievably horrifying.
Yeah, and the prevailing theory about what caused the Johnstown flood was that this club didn't maintain the dam around the lake that they'd taken over for their little hunting and fishing club, and they lowered it to allow carriages to pass more effectively, so they could travel more comfortably to their secretive club. That's what led to the death of all these thousands of people. So when the dam failed,
Right.
we can really see a connection here maybe with Ben Horne and Ghostwood.
Yeah. Just like the genuine lack of care for the natural world in that way of like, I'm just gonna bulldoze, I'm just gonna do whatever I need to do. And not worry about the consequences this might cause.
Yeah, although in Twin Peaks, those consequences feel more supernatural.
Definitely.
Well, to his credit, Durbin Horne contributed huge amounts of money to the recovery effort for Johnstown. So I guess we can't fully vilify him here, as I was...
Still a lot of people that died.
Sure. And he was one of many people perhaps responsible for it.
Right.
So we did find that little dark side, perhaps, that also connects to Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Well, another dark side, and this pertains to department stores more generally.
Yeah, not particularly with horns.
No, not
but,
in fact at all with
yeah.
horns. But we were pretty surprised to learn that department stores in the early 20th century were heavily associated with sex work, prostitution in the lingo of the day.
Yeah, by at least 1912, when the president of Macy's actively tried to work against it, there was this persistent idea that department stores were sometimes a breeding ground for sex work.
Yeah, the Chicago Vice Commission like deliberately investigated this.
Yeah, testimony that followed revealed that, the quote, saleswomen passed around pornographic cards and poems among themselves, talked openly about sex and sex desire, and gossiped about fairies.
Not the fairies.
Not the fairies. One reformer warned, quote, the strongest temptation of girls in department stores is not poverty, but luxury and money. It is the standard of living you are setting up compared with the moral standards set for the girls in their home surroundings. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I think, honestly, what I see with it is just like the classic, like, women can't have nice things. like I think they hated that women were independent and hanging out with other women and having women only conversations that men weren't a part of.
Right.
And of course, like, these women are going to talk about their sex lives. Like, they're going to talk about the men that they're dating, or women. I hope
fairies.
It's women.
They're
Yeah.
gonna
Like, what are the fairies? What are the fairies? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is that? What? Oh, the pixies. Oh, the fairies. What? They just, like, yeah, you know, the only two things women ever talk about are sex and fairies. That's true in my life.
I think that's the quote of the episode, Indigo.
I'm going to put it on a t-shirt. All women talk about is sex and fairies. I'll make new stickers.
I'm still waiting for the ones that say, Rollo disappoints God and the farmers. So
I know it is, listeners, it is on my to-do list for 2026. I'm going to get a store up. I promise.
Ooh,
It's on my
love
to-do
this.
list. I'm going to make it happen. It's literally on my to-do list app.
with all our inside jokes.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, you know, if you want something super niche, boy, do I have a store coming to you soon.
Wonderful. Okay, but I like this connection to Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Because it can feel very random.
Yes.
That they're running girls through the perfume counter, through the department store, into sex work at One-Eyed Jack's. But apparently, it's not that random.
Yeah. When you told me about this, I was like, okay, I guess everything makes sense now.
Right.
I guess here's the thing, is that apparently I missed this nugget of history where this was a thing everyone was talking about
And worried about.
and believing. And
that
I
young
just
girls
missed
were
it.
young girls were getting corrupted through their jobs at department stores and being led into lives of prostitution and sex work.
Yeah. But again, it's just, I feel like that's so classic. I feel like it's like any time, you know, it's like women in the workforce, they get so angry about it. They get so angry and they like make up stuff like this because they're like, well, we can't let women have jobs. We can't let women have independence. They can't know that it's possible to be independent. Because if they know that, they won't make us sandwiches. I'm getting riled up.
Were you some girl that makes sandwiches or something? To quote the wild one. Yeah. We're bringing them all back.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, actually, that was one that I meant to bring up earlier was, you know, this episode circles back a lot with what we talked about in our Satoshi Kon episode, with all the Moromi stuff of, like, we are living in this, you know, large dream. And who is the dreamer? It's somebody that is trying to tell us that we need these items so that we can feel better.
Yeah.
And we'll feel better if we have a Moromi. We'll feel better if we have an item that we can buy to make us have a better day or something. And I say all of this as a little treat kind of gal. You know, I'm very pro getting myself a little treat, but I'm also realizing that it's been fed to me.
Yes. And you know, that's very much what like you quoted that reformer who said like the strongest temptation is not poverty, but luxury and money. It's the standard of living you're setting up. So department stores are creating this dream of luxury and money. And the fears of the public are that girls are being seduced by this dream and they're seeking money and they're going to get it any way they can.
Yeah.
And, you know, that does also fit with Twin Peaks because Jenny, you know, the other girl who Audrey's interacting with, she's like, well, as long as he's rich, you know, when she's speaking with Emery Bettis about like these men she's going to entertain.
Right.
So we do get this sense that she's like, yeah, show me the money.
Yeah. She's like, I got bills to pay. I got bills. So.
And I have great hair.
Yeah.
She's such a. I wish we saw more of Jenny.
Yeah. Bring Jenny back.
Well, speaking of beautiful and get what she wants women, let's talk a little bit about the film Lady Beware.
So this is fascinating to me for many reasons. But yeah, so Lady Beware, this is a 1987 film.
Made at Horne's.
Made at Horne's. And Horne's closed in 95. So this is like, they're coming up close on the end. But it's fascinating that they aligned themselves with this kind of movie, just considering, like, so here's the thing is that when I say Horne's feels very conservative, I don't mean like what it means today.
No, not politically.
Like, no, just like they were very traditional. They were very, they valued class and quality. They weren't open on Sundays. They were, you know, they were religiously observing not to be open on Sundays. So it just feels like for them to be like, yeah, film this movie here feels so scandalous and like out of character for them, because everything up until then, I feel like they were like so prim and proper. Like when I say conservative, I mean prim and proper. Yeah, it just feels scandalous.
Well, the film, without spoiling too much, is about a window designer, a young, beautiful, artsy,
So beautiful.
Really kind of bold and confident and daring window designer who basically accosts a man in management on the sidewalk and says like, I want to design your windows. And he's like, okay, kid.
Yeah, he's like, I'll let you do one. And then if I like it, then I'll let you do it for months.
Yeah.
Man, it used to be so easy to get a job.
I like your spunk. You know?
Right? He's like, man, he got Moxie. No, he didn't talk like that. It's a movie from the 80s.
And she even says, well, I want the corner window.
Yeah, like give me the big window.
Yeah. And so the windows she starts designing are pretty darn risque for Horne standards.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a person who in the 1980s bought like mini bubble skirts and corsets and all that kind of stuff at Horne's, I can say they were selling kind of, you know, fun modern clothing for sure. But I would say these windows were way over the top.
The windows are a little crazy,
Yeah.
but I also really dig it.
I love them.
Like, I think they're really cool.
Yes, they're very sexy.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the first window she does, like the one that's, you know, gets her the job really and everything, is like, I mean, it's, this is part of like what I've been telling people when I'm talking about this movie. I'm like, watch it for the window designs alone, because the psychology of her window designs is incredible. Like, she's a genius.
Yes. So it's like a couple in a kitchen.
Yeah.
Right? Is it advertising the appliances?
It's advertising the appliances. And so it's like the woman is peering into the fridge. She's bent over.
Wearing a little loose kind of
like,
nightie.
Yeah, like a little negligee. And then she's got whipped cream dripping down her leg, which is crazy. And then the guy is standing in the doorway, like shirtless and watching her. And here's the best part, is that she gets blinds, like curtain blinds,
Like
window
Venetian
blinds.
blinds.
Yes, Venetian blinds. And she puts them outside the window. So when people come to peer at the window, they have to pull down the blinds and peek inside.
It's wonderful.
It's voyeurism 101. It's incredible. It's so like the psychology of it is fascinating.
Yeah.
And her window displays like continue to be really like sexy and risque, and interesting.
And the way she lives her life too. So at the beginning of the movie, this character's name is Katya. She has a loft like in an old warehouse on the north side. And I went looking for this building. It's been torn down. So probably to build a stadium. But she's got this whole floor of this old kind of warehouse looking place, kind of like in Twin Peaks with the glass box space. It has that kind of feel.
It does.
Yeah. Except it's got big windows and everything. And she seems to live her life in this very kind of curated artistic way that's like just for her pleasure.
Yeah.
So
very independent.
Yeah, her apartment is decorated really fun, and she's got mannequins everywhere in her apartment as well. And she even has like a mirror on her bathtub, so she can just kind of like enjoy watching herself drink wine. And it's like adorable.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, there's like a lot of, I mean, that's the thing is like when we watched it, we both agreed there's a lot of Lynchian vibes to it.
Yes.
Like, I mean, really, like it's really honestly pretty good.
I like this movie as well. Well, and where the Twin Peaks connection seems to come in is that Katya finds herself being stalked.
Yeah.
Really viciously.
And this guy, I was telling you after I watched it, he to me has such Frank Booth vibes, or like Bobby Peru. Like he's so slimy. He looks like if he touched you, it would burn. Like he's so icky and also so scary.
Yes.
So because he's so crazed and manic and unpredictable in the way that like especially like he reminds me so much of Frank.
Yeah, and I said he reminded me of the villain in Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane.
Yes,
too.
also that.
Yeah.
Like it's just that unpredictability, and also like he truly doesn't care. He doesn't care about like he has no fear. He's just like, he knows that he can scare her and he knows he can intimidate her because he's been raised in a society that's told him he can.
Yeah, and he follows her home. He sees her window display.
Yeah, and becomes obsessed.
He follows her home. He watches her through her windows. He breaks into her apartment when she's not there.
Yeah.
And like uses her toothbrush.
Does like a bunch of stuff. There's like stuff where he like breaks a bunch of stuff in her apartment. He calls her a lot and has these like scary phone calls with her where he says really unsettling things. He steals her mail so that he can invade her brain.
Well, he reads a letter from her father
and calls her the nickname that her father calls her,
which is Buttercup.
I think so. I think it's Buttercup.
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Oh, hi, Dad," and like. It's so scary. Like, I don't want to give away too much because I do want you all to watch this. But
that idea of like the perpetrator and the father kind of being blended, very interesting.
Yeah.
Also, the director.
Yeah, because he's also kind of Bob-like because he's so erratic.
He is very Bob-like.
He's, like, because it's just he's so erratic and unpredictable, and like you are so afraid at every moment of like, oh God, what is he gonna do? But she's also like Laura in that she decides to fight. She decides, you're not going to win. You will not invade me. You are not going to get this. And that's like, honestly, I think the thing that I appreciated about it the most was that she fights. It's like a revenge thing where like she actually gets her revenge. She actually wins against him by turning it back on himself.
Yeah.
She's like, I'll stalk you back and I'm going to learn everything about you and I'm going to ruin your life. And I'm like, yeah, God, yeah. Get it.
And that's not what happens at first. At first, she really retreats.
Yes.
So we see the psychological effects that this has on her. Like, I know that the director Karen Arthur in a 1986 Los Angeles Times article was talking about this project. And she said that she'd started it in 1978 and that it had taken her 8 years to get the actual film project off the ground. the article says, had Arthur chosen to make a teen sex comedy, she undoubtedly would have completed it long ago. However, the 44-year-old director wanted to make a movie about psychological rape. And that, in her experience, is a subject male studio executives don't understand. The purse holders are men, Arthur observes, and they attempted to make Lady Beware a violent picture. I'm not interested in making a picture where a woman gets beat up. I want to show how a woman deals with this kind of insidious violence. A policeman can't help.
Yeah.
And I think the movie really does capture that. You know, Jack, the stalker, he has opportunities to actually physically assault her.
Yeah.
But he doesn't at those moments.
He just wants her to be so scared and
Yes.
so fragile for him.
Like, you know it's going to come eventually.
Yeah.
Like, he is going to physically attack her eventually. But that's not all he wants. He wants this complete psychological domination.
Yeah, he wants to control her. He wants to know that he's getting off on knowing that he has power over her that is all based in fear and control. And it's very Bob-like. It's very Bob-like. And like when she does start to originally, like at the beginning, when she is, you know, kind of falling apart, when it's really tearing her apart, it does remind me of some of the scenes we get of Laura in the times when she does break down.
In Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's just like, she looks so hopeless and so afraid. And she's like, no one can help me. Because like, really, it's like, no one can help Katya. Like, she tries to get people to help and like, they just like can't. Like, that's
They
the thing.
either don't understand how serious it is, or they can't. She gets somebody to put bars on her windows. That's quite an image, right? She has these big, beautiful open windows, and now they're like
And now
iron
she's a
bars
caged
on them.
bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she puts bars on only one window near the fire escape, and then he rappels off the roof
Yeah.
to get into one of her other windows. You know, so he's just like relentless.
Yeah.
And
He just
ruthless.
works his way around it again and again. But again, like Laura, she's like, decides not to give in.
Yes. Yeah, he wants total possession of her. And like Bob's like, I want to taste through your mouth. You know, I can imagine Jack saying something
That's it.
like that.
That's the thing, listeners, like the kind of phone calls he's giving her and like the things he's saying to her, it sounds like something Frank Booth or Bob would say.
Yes.
Like it's insane and scary.
Yes. And then the overlap with the father thing, with him using the
that one was
nickname.
so awful.
Yeah, that's very Leland Bob-like as well. I think he even says to her at one point, like, you know, the way your father looked at you, implying that, like, her father kind of lusted after her and that kind of thing, too. You know, and when she decides to get her power back, she goes in disguise. Yeah. And I couldn't help but notice she had some very Maddie-like glasses.
She does kind of.
When she's in disguise and following him and getting information about him. So I also liked very much that early in the film, one of Katya's mannequins is wrapped in plastic.
Very true. Very
It is a
true.
naked mannequin wrapped in plastic. I think I gasped and like paused it and had to write that down right away.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like visuals and stuff that I could see like connections and stuff, and also just like, again, like thematically, it's a woman in trouble. It's a woman in trouble with like, again, like a terrifying erratic man who is just like, I mean, truly unhinged. And
She takes her power back.
yeah, and she's an artist. She's living the art life.
She is.
Like she's all about her art, and her apartment is more like a studio for her art than anything else. And again, like, watch it for the window designs alone. And like, and it's fascinating because, like, again, for Horns to sign on for this, like they were known internationally for their bridal windows.
Yeah, for their window displays.
They
You're
were
right.
known for their window displays. Like there's a part in the book by Savage that said that like the crowd surrounding the window displays when they would like release a new one would be like 10 people deep. And if you couldn't see it in person, don't worry, because they would film it. They would make a film and show it at the Grand Theater because people wanted to see these displays so bad. This is how important the displays were.
Yeah, it was a series of 18 windows, 18 picture windows
Yeah.
that they did. It was like the life of a bride. And so, you know, it showed like the courtship and the engagement and the marriage and the honeymoon and then like setting up house and all of this. And what did 30 to 40,000 people come for like the 1923? Was
Yeah.
that the year?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like they were known for these window displays. So for like Arthur to be like, I'm going to make a movie about the Horne's window displays is fascinating.
And a lot of Pittsburghers, of course, remember like the Christmas windows at Horne's. But yeah, they were famous for way more window designs. In fact, another very famous Pittsburgher started his commercial art career at Horne's, also in the window display department.
This one was crazy. Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol did the windows at Horne's. Like, that's crazy.
A story I really like about it is that he drew a shoe on the wall in one of the windows, like on the kind of sheetrock or like, you know. And he liked it so much that he cut it out and kept it. And I saw it on display at the Warhol Museum.
Oh my gosh.
They keep it there and they have it kind of on a rotating exhibit. And so they had that piece of the wall that he cut out from the Horne's window. And he liked the shoe that he drew.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that. Is it showing it right now? Do you know?
I don't know.
No.
Well, speaking of famous window designers, this is a wonderful transition to our next episode. Because the most famous window designer of all was Frank Baum.
Which, listeners, I should hope that the name is familiar to you, as a lot of people know that David Lynch loves The Wizard of Oz, and this is the author of The Wizard of Oz.
Frank Baum was so wrapped up in this heyday of department stores, window design, advertising, dreaming the dream that we are all still living in, that we were really excited to see this new perspective on The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And to start thinking about and planning for how we can talk about this in our next episode, which will be on The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
You know, it's already been discussed so much that I think we were hesitant. You know, the movie Lynch Oz is
Right.
out there, and we were all obviously more interested in the Alice books,
Right.
so we prioritized that. But now, after reading this and learning more about Frank Baum, we have a different take, maybe, than that has already been discussed. So
Right.
that's a little preview.
Yeah, because we are going to tie this in quite a bit with Land of Desire and, you know, capitalism and consumerism in general. So these two episodes are kind of going to go hand in hand in some ways.
So this one on Horne's Department Store is very Twin Peaks, very Mark Frost. The next one is going to be all David Lynch.
All Lynch.
Yes.
All Oz. And in the meantime, as we mentioned earlier, please reach out to us. We love hearing from you. We love hearing your thoughts. If you engage with any of the media that we mention, you can always message us on Instagram at Full Blossom of the Evening. You can email us at fullblossomoftheeveningpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing your thoughts. It's always so fun.
Yes, and if you're thinking about it, please drop us a 5-star rating and maybe even a review on your podcast platform.
Those also mean so much to us. Usually whenever someone makes a review, and Hilary usually sees them before I do and will send them to me, and I always cry. So
Yes.
if you'd like to make me cry,
Happy cry.
please leave a nice review. I'll happy cry.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for listening to The Full Blossom of the Evening. And we'll sign off with
It was Laura, and she's come to kiss you goodbye.
goodbye, listeners.
Goodbye.
It was aurora, and I saw her glowing. I saw her